Hello and welcome to another episode of commUNITY. I'm Sarah Quinn, and today I'm joined by Elena, the Suicide and Community Response Coordinator, and Justina, the Coalition and Community Development Coordinator from Stark MHAR. Thank you guys so much once again for taking the time to talk to us to continue the very important discussion of suicide prevention for the month of September.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, Sarah.
Absolutely. And today we're going to be talking about something that personally, from things that have happened in my life, I know how important this is in the context of suicide prevention, which is creating a safe home and safe home tips. Could you guys elaborate what exactly that means in the context of suicide prevention and awareness?
Yeah. So I'll start by just sharing that just as we protect our homes when we have young children, we want to continue to do that throughout childhood, teen years, really even for adults as well. We always want to make sure that our home is safeguarded. And we created this kind of steps towards a safer home kind of approach, or graphic, I guess, if you will, to look at not only suicide prevention, but overdose as well. And that's where Justina will come in and talk from that perspective as well. So I guess in a holistic way, if you will, trying to look at how do we make sure that our home environment is as safe as it can be.
Absolutely. You know, that's I think one of the toughest conversations to have when it comes to the topic of suicide prevention is when people are hurting in our own home, we do need to make sure that we create a safe environment for them to limit any risk as much as we can. Justina, do you want to take it from there and talk about some things that we can do, especially with that topic?
Absolutely. So our little steps to a safer home card and part of our website really does kind of get into 5 main areas. And a lot of it is about locking things up. Like I heard a little quip the other day, locks save lives. And they really do. I mean, securing firearms and keeping firearms and ammunition separate is very important. Locking up any prescription medication, keeping alcohol out of reach, and really having support members and supportive people nearby. I mean, knowing that you can talk to your family members and knowing the crisis number, whether it's the call line or the text line, just having those available and ready whenever you need them.
Now, you touched on something that I know can be difficult for some people, and that's wanting to be available for those that are hurting in our household. And sometimes, while people want to be there for their loved ones, they're not sure how to broach the topic or how to properly discuss things with people that are hurting. Can you give people tips on how to broach that subject with someone that they think in their household might be having thoughts of suicide?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of it is really just knowing that you're there to listen and without judgment, and again, places to turn. I know Elena on her Facebook page for the Suicide Prevention Coalition has been sharing a lot of tips too, so I would imagine she has some specifics to share as well.
I think that oftentimes we don't want to ask or bring up the conversation because we're fearful of what happens if people say yes, that they are having thoughts of suicide, or that they plant this idea of, if I ask, does that mean that I'm going to give them the idea? And that is just, it's a myth, and research does show that when we are able to have that conversation, to ask, you know, are you having thoughts of suicide, that decreases somebody's anxiety. So there's that piece of it, but then also, it's not necessarily that we always have to do something, more so than we just need to listen and being there to listen and support people and to say things that, you know, I'm here for you, and making time to have that conversation, I think, is very important. And listening and just asking that question in a very direct way of, you know, when other people have felt this way, they have thought about suicide, and I'm wondering if you feel that way too. It doesn't come across as you're not thinking of hurting yourself, are you? Because you're going to get a no, you know, why would you ask me that type question. I do want to touch too, though, on creating this safe home. should be done even when you're not concerned, because what's hard is that sometimes we're not aware of the warning signs or recognize when somebody might be at risk. And so these are the things that we would say to take action on, whether you're concerned about people's in your life or not. Because what happens is that suicidal crisis can come on so quickly that we're not prepared for that, that when we have access to lethal means, so things that people could use to kill themselves with, that's when we can find ourselves in a not so good situation. So really it's being preventative, that let's not wait until we are concerned, because everyone has, especially when it comes to youth, everyone has that, well, that's not my family, that's not my kid. But you never know.
Right. So touching on that then, we did mention firearms and weapons, but there might be some other things that people don't even think about that would be a good idea to lock up or put out of reach. Could you give some examples of things that in a home under normal circumstances we wouldn't even think to put it away? But by doing so and taking those extra steps, we could help stop a bad situation.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even a matter of putting it all away, but having smaller kind of doses available, if you will. Think about the things that you buy in bulk. When you go to Sam's Club or wherever and you buy Tylenol in those big, bottles, that's something that we always tend to keep readily available. So that would be one, the Tylenol, the Motrin, all of those over-the-counter medications that we want to keep smaller quantities on hand and maybe lock up everything else. So that we don't have those large quantities. Tylenol is one of the most commonly used methods that teenagers especially will try to attempt suicide with.
And when it comes to cleaning products and chemicals like that, is that also should be on the list of things to keep out of reach or smaller quantities of?
Absolutely. Pesticides, gasoline, the list really does go on and on. All those chemicals, Clorox. Justina, what am I forgetting?
Well, I was going to go away from the chemicals and talk about sharps, because there are a lot of sharps around our homes that we don't always think of, like kitchen knives. I know when I was a therapist, like shaving razors, like people would break them open to get to the blade. So like
pencil sharpeners.
Yeah, pencil sharpeners, they can easily pop those out. So like being aware of what items like that are in your home, because, kids may have pencil sharpeners for school projects and things like that. But yeah, sharp objects are definitely one to keep an eye on. And I'm like Elena said, maybe it's not always, locking them all away, because sure, people need to shave and things like that, but at least knowing what you have and where it is.
Having like an always working inventory. It probably would be a good idea for someone to go room by room and to just do a very extensive inventory of what they have and where it is. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to talk about safe home tips. Is there anything else you want to make sure to add, whether it's to have these conversations and communication with family members or other ways that you can keep your home safe?
I do want to add, sorry, when it comes to safe home, I think some people tend to be a little skeptical on this, because it's not meant to take away. If somebody is struggling, this isn't the end all be all, but this is really just another way to look at this and to prevent suicide or an overdose from happening in your home. And so just keeping an open mind that, when it comes to suicide prevention, it really is about a puzzle and needing to have lots of things in place to make sure that we can prevent suicide. And part of that is knowledge. Knowledge is power. And so knowing warning signs and risk factors. So head over to the Stark County Suicide Prevention Coalition Facebook page. There's tons of information that's being posted all month long, but it's a great way to continuously be educated on the warning signs, the risk factors, how to have that conversation, and that especially when you do lose somebody to suicide, or somebody that's lost somebody to suicide, how do you support them in that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Justina, what was...
Yeah, I was just going to add that we have a great downloadable card right on the StarkMHAR website. So I would encourage everyone to go through that. But beyond that card, we have a wealth of information. Thanks, Elena. But you know, we can only put so much information on that half sheet size card, but we included a lot of other information just on the website, especially about how to talk to your kids about certain things. I mean, my focus tends to be substance use prevention. So there's a lot of great tips on there on how to talk to your kids about that as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time once again. This is a topic that's very important to me and Gabe, who you talked to last time. It's all about being vigilant and being really keyed into people's lives that you love and care about, and realizing that just because you're there sometimes isn't enough. You have to breach that topic in conversation. And don't be scared to do so, because it comes from a place of caring and love.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you. In the caption of this video, we will also be providing all the links to StarkMHAR's Facebook page and other helpful downloadable links as well.